This is Ronald Allen, managing change through effective communications. Today's discussion, drill for success. Had the opportunity to work with some military personnel, and what I found and learnt within a very quick period of time, short period of time, was that repetition helps us become very good, very confident, and very apt at executing a new learned behavior. So how can we as lay people learn from this? How can we benefit from this? Norman, good evening. Thanks for checking in with us here at Managing Change through Effective Communications. Drill for success. You know, we always see people working out in the commercials. They have these exercise clubs. You always see the very aggressive, physical, well-endowed individuals, male and female. And it's always a physical side or a perspective. Well, what can we do as people who perhaps play a violin, play an instrument? What about those who are exercising the gray matter through subjects, whether it's biology, zoology, any of the sciences, of course, things that don't necessarily take the physical perspective? Well, what I've learned, again, by hanging out with these military personnel, is that they have become very good in their field, whether it's IT, whether it's intelligence gathering, whether it's research. Take librarians, for example. I've had the pleasure of knowing Joan DeVore out of Burlington County Public Library, who is I say a stealth researcher. Yes, I'll use that term, stealth researcher. How many of us have run to Wikipedia only to find out that the information is not as complete, not as accurate, and in many cases full of errors, outdated information? Well, I'll tell you, as we talk about managing change through effective communications, I believe, and I've learned through observing and finding out how people have gone from one set of comfort to a state where it's almost become unconsciously competent in what they do. So the individual who perhaps is not as physical in high school or college, that individual can excel in other areas that will support our need further down the road. As you know, most athletes, professional athletes, only have a very short window, 5, maybe 10 years. The fortunate few may go 15, 20 years. After that, when the body itself, when the physical capabilities of your body can no longer sustain the peak performance of what is required at these international levels of sports, what do you do? If you haven't crafted your mind, if you haven't exercised, right? We talk about elasticity of the brain. If you haven't exercised the brain, you literally begin to die. You shut down. Think of people who have retired and died literally within 5 years. And that could be any age, because they've been working at this peak performance in their place of entrepreneurship, as an executive, as a support person in corporate world where peak performance is demanded every single day. And in some cases, even after hours, you're putting in 50, 60, 70 hours a week. So if we're looking to better manage ourselves, to perform at a higher rate for longer durations of time, and now even as we get older, we come back into the workplace. As, by the way, working with these military personnel, they told me, even when you put in your fixed time, I think it's 4 to 6 years, the government can call you back at any time in the future. Some of you may have even seen on LinkedIn or other social media sites where people who are in their 50s, 60s have been brought back into the military. Perhaps there is a coaching, mentoring lesson learnt there. The intellectual capital of those who have gone through the challenges, and it's not just physical war, which in and of itself, from the people that I've met in my town who are military, after all, I live right next to McGuire and Fort Dix military base, the conversations we have, most people would not understand, cannot understand what you mentally go through when you're in combat. So can you now imagine if you ratchet that down just a smidgen to the combat full contact in corporate world, that if you don't exercise your mind, if you don't craft, if you don't repeat the necessary steps successfully that you need to be able to maintain and sustain your lifestyle mentally, then you don't have much of a chance by trying to do it half-ass, right? So the discussion basically tonight is drilling for success. And no matter what profession you're in, if you're an audio engineer, we had a group of women who were doing quilting, and they said even many of them who had just started out 4 or 5 years ago, they improve with successful repetition of the craft, of the skill, of the needle point, and I'm not sure of all the different styles that there are, and there were many. They all have specific skills that you need to develop. So the question then is, what are you developing? Are you allowing the outside world to develop you? Or are you slowly but surely, every day, and I say every day, even if it's 3 or 4 hours, do it every day. For writers and editors and publishing, it's a craft. You get better at it. Think of an actor. Actors, when they start off, look at any actor, however late in their career they started, and then look at them 5, 10, 15 years. Can we begin to learn how to better manage ourselves, our time, and therefore our energies, where we spend it, so that we become better able to manage life? No, you're not going to be successful every time. No, you're not going to be successful even as much as you'd like to. What you will find is that when you come out of the training mode, where you are learning the craft, you will adapt different processes given the situation you're in. Think of when you're driving, when you first start driving. You've got both hands on the wheel, your knuckles are turning white, and you're tense. After a couple of weeks, well, you're chugging back a kegger, you're smoking, you're on the cell phone, you're turning left and right, you're giving the person the nice high finger, you're more comfortable. Now, of course, that's a little perverted. That's how we adapt. That's how we become more comfortable with any learned skill and knowledge. Now, what is also interesting about that, by the way, is that when we do become more comfortable, we kind of become like cement. That's also equally dangerous. So you've got the initial thrust to get off and get started and sustain. Then you hit a plateau and you say, well, I'm doing well based on and looking at and where did I come from? Then that becomes another stalemate. The beautiful thing about our minds, and if you engage it on a daily basis, consistently and with intent, you'll find that it's seeking another plateau, seeking another level of information. And in many cases, in many subjects, I love horticulture. Why? It's about life. I love nature's best, animals. Why? Because they're always about life. They don't complain. They don't look for advocacy. They don't have ombudsman. They don't have a healthcare plan. Right? When Joey gets caught crossing the river too slow by the crocodile, they're not coming to his rescue most of the time. It is building our resilience. It is learning things that today we do not know and are possibly uncomfortable with, and yet tomorrow down the road, we need to have adapted, we need to have or become aware of. Think about all the challenges you've had when you didn't know how to address them. You got through them, right? Pain, suffering, a pound of skin here or there, right? A bloodletting. And then you became comfortable. Comfortable with the fact that you succeeded, not comfortable and complacent. When you do become complacent, that is also deadly. Yes, that is what life is all about. That's why I enjoy hanging out with animals. I've got fox out there. If you go out early enough, the turkeys are getting eaten. Yep, they are. Meh, for the fox. They are. So I adapt that observation and say to myself, where am I vulnerable? What else can I do? I need to keep moving. That is actually intrinsic of our very psyche. You have to keep moving. And unfortunately, so many of us have been taught by our family, our social groups, our theologies, that, oh no, you have to be complacent, you have to wait. Life does not wait. Tectonic plates of the earth shift over time. Maybe not our time, but they shift. The North and South poles shift. A lot of this information, by the way, has only been learned over the last couple of 100 years. Yet for planetary time, although we know there's no such thing as time, planetary time, it's but a blink of an eye. That in and of itself, that perspective, that understanding, learning that down the road helps you make sense of the challenges you're going through, helps you understand what it takes